7 to 9.
And what happens, it's gonna bring up a YouTube page and start playing it. You're gonna make sure that you X out of it. Otherwise, you're gonna hear the same thing that's happening here, there with a delay.
Okay.
So you don't want to have that. So
Huh.
Yeah, Sunday morning.
it takes a moment.
It's been pretty busy.
So people could watch us live.
So all right. So we are live right now. So I'm just going to X out of this, and there we go. We are now live. And when you're done, all you do is you hit end and then end for all.
And then for all.
And then
Okay.
say end meeting
Yeah,
for all.
yeah,
At
yeah.
the end of the night, that shuts off the YouTube stream.
Okay.
And then all you need to do is just take the remote and then just turn the screen off.
Okay.
That's it.
And when you say live, we're not
Turn
actually
the screen off.
broadcasting.
On YouTube, yes.
Oh, interesting, all right.
Yeah.
I thought it
So
was
someone
just-
could watch it right now?
Right now.
Oh, we told,
Yeah.
oh, actually,
So
we
we were
didn't
told-
believe that it
Yeah.
was YouTube, we just assumed that it was just recording, that's fine.
So it records it at the same time.
Okay.
So
Yeah, that's fine, not a problem.
there you
Right,
have
the
it.
recording
So,
process.
yeah, right. You know.
Thank you.
So,
Okay.
So all I need to do is just hit that X
Hit
and
that
then the
X.
thing will pop up and for all, and then turn it
and
off.
then you just turn off the screen and
Well,
that's
like,
it.
yes,
Turn off
now
Oh,
I
it's
actually-
just the big red one.
Oh,
Big
all
power button.
meetings have actually got on YouTube.
Thank you.
Let me know if you need me, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, you're very welcome.
They don't participate anyway.
I think everybody said that on camera, be careful.
No, I didn't, we didn't start yet. Yes, it did.
Is it?
Oh, Oh, we don't call it, okay, all right, well. Can't help that, all right, so, I will then, today is Tuesday, July 8th, it's past the hour of 5:30, and I will call the meeting of the Council on Aging to order. I will apologize ahead of time for anybody that is watching this. This is our first time being recorded, but we're gonna do the best we can to make it as entertaining and seamless as possible. All right, so the first item on the agenda is the call to order, and then we will ask for audience sharing. Seeing none in the room, we will go on to the approval of the minutes for the June 3rd meeting as submitted. Yeah. Second. There, here, a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing
I
none?
have a question.
Oh,
Should
yes.
you have told who was here? For the video?
No, because we're all in person.
Okay, okay.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you. Yes, my understanding is that now that this is no longer having to read that script ahead of time, if every member is present and you don't have to do a formal roll call, it's only if it's a hybrid. All right, Friends report. Dawn Rand.
Okay, first up, the year-to-date spending and programs outreach, the new request for times mailing. So this includes the mailing and the programs. $17,026.20. Henry, do you have an idea? Maybe you said 17 was all the mailing.
Mailing is around $1,700 a month. So we're mailed right through July, so 7 times 1,700 is about $10,000, I guess.
So just so people know that the Friends do pay for all of them.
And that's year to date.
That's year to date.
Okay, we had a car wash and a summer raffle, and that brought in $1,333. And the next thing we have coming up is fundraiser for the Elvis impersonator show. And that's on September 30th. It's $30 a person, and tickets go on sale August 1st. And just so people know, a lot of the fundraisers we have are a lot of fun, but they're a lot of work too. And that's how we are able to fund the different things that we do. Most of the programs through the senior center are not funded by the town, they're funded by the Friends. So we look forward to having these fundraisers and hope that everybody gets some. We did see Elvis in person, and he was really good. And I'm not really an Elvis person, but he was really, really good. So I'm hoping lots of people come, and we're going to have his favorite food, fried chicken, and potato salad, banana.
Peanut butter sandwiches.
That was dessert.
Oh, that was the dessert.
So that's dessert. So anyway, I hope that everyone can make it. And I don't have an update on the membership. I'm gonna show you.
The tickets go on sale August 1st. You didn't say that.
And where are the tickets available?
They'll be available.
Front desk.
Front desk.
And I do want to mention that people of all ages are welcome. It is not just a senior program. So anyone who is an Elvis fan, regardless of age, you're welcome to purchase a ticket.
And bring it back.
All right, thank you very much, Dawn. All right, director's report. Carol, you're up.
All right, so the director's report, I was just noticing, it might not be in the exact order as on the agenda, but I've been kind of playing around with the order a little bit. So general updates, we did get all 3 grants that we applied for from the MCOA, so go with that. The governor still has to, the governor has signed the budget, so I think we will get them, but we have not gotten notification of contracts, but I think we will do.
I believe they said that she, when she signed it, she reserved the right to go back
She did.
any
I know.
grants.
I know.
Until it's September, she's looking at the economy that
Yeah,
the trickle down from the federal.
yeah. So I don't know, I'm hoping
So it's
that
not a
they
guarantee.
give them out by then, or, you know, I don't know.
Carol, what were those 3 grants for?
So the first one was some lobby updates. It was updating some of the signage, getting brochure holders. The second one is for a solo aging project where like this woman will come and talk about, you know, when you're aging and you don't have a lot of family support around you. And then the third one is the daybreak. And that one, so that's to cover the cost of the daybreak program that's held here once a week. But there is a stipulation actually that we have to see first if we can get the funding from Springwell. Because usually it would have been Springwell, but Springwell still has not announced if they're going to have any funding of that sort. So that's kind of up in the air. But if we don't get the Springwell funding, then okay.
That Springwell is also waiting to see what the federal government will do with the Older Americans Act funding, which is where the Title III money comes from, both the family caregiver programs, the home delivered meals, information referral, and that type.
Yeah, I wrote a thing here, the MCOA has their list of legislative priorities and they want support. So I did write one letter and I didn't get it. So, but I'm just kind of getting to know I want to get to know the different legislators of it. She's the state senator. There's also a representative. I'm not familiar with these people, so I'm going to try to get to know them a little bit. Write some
You
more
know
letters.
that there's 2 representatives for the town of North.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It depends what,
Oh, part of
zone you
Northborough.
live in,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Lakeville Corning,
And Kate Donahue.
yeah. Well, we'll get to know them both then.
and Robert Kennedy's the state senator.
Yeah, Robert Kennedy's the one.
All are active in the community. You should invite them maybe to an event.
That's what we were thinking of inviting them to some events, like having them come to somewhat regular basis. I submitted another grant to get a little vacuum cleaner for the, you know, for the vans. It helps. I mentioned this thing about the tracking attendance because I know that was listed in the strategic report, like better recording of statistics. And I found out that I was really kind of taken aback that I looked at the Father's Day trail mix event and nobody was signed up in my senior center, so it didn't even register in our statistics, and that's not okay. So we will fix that. We're looking at some different ways of doing it. In fact, I wrote something in the newsletter about it, about the importance of saying it, so, but we have to do more than that too. And as far as the budget for the town goes, we are having a financial summit on August 26th, where all the department heads are going to have to just briefly explain what their department is doing, and then we will have to propose some sort of budget, but we don't have all the details yet. They're going to be emailing something. As far as the action plan goes, the carport, so nothing was completed this time. That's why I didn't bother printing the thing off. But the carport, we are making progress with that. The DPW I gave them the details, they ordered it, and they've talked to the company. They're getting the engineering, whatever report that tells them how to install it, and they may do some of it, like they have to pull out some of the tar and install concrete so it can be secure in there. So that's great. He says we should be able to get it by the fall. I'm really happy about that. And it's not gonna use up all the money, so we're probably at least about half the money. So we're looking at a couple other projects, yeah.
You can buy the vacuum.
Vacuum cleaner, not quite that bad. It's enough, but not that bad.
Are there restrictions? I'm sure there must be restrictions on what you can use money for.
Well, it was meant originally for a van, I guess, which I guess we don't really need. So, I talked to Jason and he said, you know, it should be something tangible that you can point to and say, this was something important for the senior center.
Security cameras.
Well, that's an idea too. What we're doing is collecting ideas and then seeing what, you know, trying to prioritize them. But I'll write that down as one possibility. And then the other one that, is the welcome letter. You know, we're getting that together. I was working with Maggie and her husband is writing a program to take the information from the town clerk and make it into a good list for the, mailing list, which is tricky. It is, it's because it's very different types of information and you can't do it with Excel, not without a lot of manual intervention. So
Carol,
we're doing that.
I'm just gonna interrupt you for a minute. There's a second page to the director's report, so I'm gonna pass these.
Oh, do people not have it?
No, because I handed out
Sorry.
just the one page. I didn't
Oh,
realize,
okay.
didn't realize that there was a whole second page.
I'm sorry. So at any rate, I'm getting the welcome letter together and that has been, held up because I want to include a couple documents in with this and one is a brochure. And then I looked at our brochure and it is like hopelessly out of date. It's just ridiculously out of date, yeah. So, because it just hasn't been used for a while. So, so I'm just going to make up something that's based on that and includes some updated version of it. Something quick that I can print off and include until we get further in the strategic plan and we can make up a really nice brochure.
So you're using internal funding for that? I mean,
For the,
for the brochure, you're doing it in-house, is,
yeah, I'm just designing something through Canva and I'll print it off in our printer, so low budget. The bistro is doing well, you know, 302 lunches, 46 dinners. Our total check-ins were, you know, counts for June was 2015, but as I did mention, I mean, we missed, that doesn't include the ones for those two events, which would be another 100 or 850. Which we're going to rectify. I have all the averages there for the average per day. I think it's not a bad idea to just see how the average fluctuates over time, month by month. And we had the, you know, the different events. We had to unfortunately cancel the, postpone the alpacas because it was too hot again. So we're going to aim to do those kind of things like off-season, you know, May and September in the future. So we had the Father's Day and the root beer floats, which were both very successful. And Linda and I were getting together and we're planning all sorts of things for the fall, a little bit more robust than this particular list here. We got some great things coming up. And transportation is going fine. I don't know if you've all heard about the VIA service, the microtransit that started. I haven't really heard anything about it though, but I think it's a great addition.
Is that connected to the senior center or is that another organization doing that?
WRTA is doing it. Yeah.
If I saw that and my wife sent that off to a couple of people that she knows that sometimes needs rides.
Yeah. And what's nice about it is it goes until I think 7 in the evening. So if we have an evening event here, people could use it to get here after our transportation stopped. So that's a real plus.
Yeah, I'm confused with the difference between what we've been offering in ride service all along and the new VIA service.
Well, yeah, it's very different. What we have now is a van and you have to book it ahead and you book it through WRTA and our drivers do it and the van goes around. And it doesn't cost anything. There's no cost. But you're supposed to book like at least a whole day ahead. And but there is a fairly large area that you can travel. The VIA, it's only, Southborough, Northborough and Shrewsbury, and not even all of Northborough. And it costs $2 a ride. But you can call and say, I need a ride next hour, and they'll come. So,
It's not a door to door. You have to, get picked up at a specific location.
that's-
They're expanding it into further into Norfolk. They've been here for a while. My understanding is that there was some use of the people that work over on Bartlett Street in the, say like Amazon and FedEx, that the workers there were using it for transportation to get to work. And then and high school students for after school sports. So now they're expanding it, into more of our community and then going to different places.
Believe they go to Westboro too, because they go to the train station.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. And actually, the senior center is not in the area served, but they made an exception for us because.
So is one of the pickup places the senior center?
Outreach services, I only realized this time that when you list the total services, I was always used to where it was before, we only had outreach, but the nurse services are also included in that, so I just popped them in there. I think it's interesting to know how many visits the nurse is making too, and she works often with Jocelyn. Farmer market coupons are unfortunately only half the value of last year, but at least it's something.
And those are also received through Springwell, the farmers market coupons.
And which town's farmers market? Is it Northborough?
Usually it's any town, it's just
Oh,
farmers
oh.
markets, it depends, certain vendors will, accept them, some do, some don't. And we have Jocelyn's report about the, chair, which worked out very nicely.
Okay, and I'm gonna, I apologize, I'm gonna interrupt you again, because I'm hoping that someone, at least one person might listen to our meeting. I think it would be really good for them to see what one of the many types of outreach or interactions Jocelyn has. So
Mhm.
would you be willing to read it?
Oh,
or-
sure, I can read it.
Yeah, I mean, just because I think that it's important that people see, she has no idea what's gonna come across her desk on any given day, and it's a good way of, informing people of the misconception sometimes of what senior centers are about.
Okay. Several months ago, I was contacted about a resident living in a Northborough senior housing with a looming problem. The resident lives alone with supportive services and is reliant upon a lift chair to go from seated to standing. The lift assist mechanism or a chair had been hesitating and was at risk of failing. The resident's resources are limited. Her Springwell case manager and I began to consider options, including a request to Mass Health for coverage with a statement of need from her physician. The resident is a Mass Health member, and partial coverage of a lift chair is sometimes possible. As these options were being considered, another person who was in the process of cleaning out a loved one's home called about wanting to pass on a near-new lift chair to someone. The offer was gratefully accepted by the resident needing the chair. The chair has not yet been delivered as it requires a coordination of someone to remove and discard the old chair at the same time the new chair is delivered. Under the circumstances and given the resident's limited resources, the cost of the chair, pickup, and disposal was also a concern. After a couple of phone calls to junk removal services, Fred at Green Team Junk Removal offered at no prompting to do it for a considerable discounted $50. The coordination of this effort is still in process. The reasonableness of the Green Team Junk Removal fee means that the likelihood of obtaining assistance to cover the fee is all but assured. So that was a really nice outcome.
It was,
Yeah.
I love reading this.
Yeah.
It was wonderful.
Yeah. And then the Springwell updates, the Title III community grants. I mean, those are the ones that could cover the day program. They're still waiting to see what happens with that. The ECOP, the Enhanced Community Options Program, the state has some limits, caps on it, and so that they had to reduce the services, and they may have to take some more people off in September. And there's a wait list, I guess, for this priority for consumers. Those are people who are kind of in a critical situation, but there's just not as many funds to help people, so it's really kind of upsetting to see these, but that's how it is right now.
You're familiar with some of the history that we had with Springwell, where
as a board meeting. Because
Yes.
staff weren't getting any responses.
Yeah. Mhm.
Are they more communicative now? Are they responsive to phone calls?
They seem to be. We haven't had any more complaints about it. You know, other than, I mean, there's some people who aren't getting them because there's no funds, but we haven't had a problem with that, and it doesn't seem to be an issue.
So if they are approved, they're getting the services,
Yeah.
because it was sometimes a month, 6 months to
Yeah.
a year of wait.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, no, we haven't had anybody.
That's good. Step in the right direction.
So that's all on the report.
Excellent. Anybody have any other additional questions or concerns for Carol? Okay, all right. On to our strategic planning. And Linda, I do have to make sure that you get copies of these to attach to the minutes when.
We can send them. Yeah.
All right, so, Carol had sent out a couple of examples of other strategic plans so that we could take a look to see if nothing else, if the formatting or the structure of ours is the way in which we want to proceed, or whether we want to change it up. And the two that she sent was Hingham and Hanover. Both happened to be H's for no other reason than that she got that far into the alphabet. So we do know that one is more structured like what we had, which is more of a narrative. The other one is a lot of charts and bells and whistles. Did anyone have a, strong reaction to either or any?
I felt that the shorter one was much better for the reader, for the going through the process to help us get more funding. It's much more likely to be read and appreciated, whereas the other one, I couldn't get through. I scanned it,
Okay, so you're talking Hingham.
Yes.
The structure of Hingham, okay.
I like the structure here because it talked about how it came up with prioritizing and what it was putting into a strategic plan. Then it set out goals, and then it put the goals in a very clear format of, this is what we want to do. This is how we'll know that we've done it. This is who is responsible. This is a time frame. It really made the action plan that would come from it quite clear. So I like the way the Hingham one was structured.
I'll add though that I missed an executive summary. I like the fact that ours started with an
Yeah.
executive summary.
Yes.
I mean, some people will only read the first page.
Yeah.
All right, so, as we have said in the past meetings, we're not going to recreate the wheel. We're going to, work off of the one that we have and just refresh it, freshen it up, make it very user friendly, and something that Carol then can follow as she develops her action plans and goals over the course of the next few years. All right, well then, I'm happy to scrap Hanover for the moment. And then, I don't know, Carol, do you have can you put the two tables of contents up, or if there's too much, we can say no?
I can only put one at a time.
All right.
Oh, the
well-
tables of contents for the two plans.
Well, what I'd like to do is now look at the Northborough table of contents and the Hingham to see whether what we're trying to include in ours is, at least this is the way I process it, and I'm happy to change it if somebody has a stronger or better thought process, is I start with the table of contents because then I know what I'm going to be writing about. Right? So I hear that executive summary is an important piece. So
Let me get this, maybe I can get both up at the same time. Let me give it a try.
does everybody has some form of it in front of them? This is Hingham. There's nothing else. Ours was 25 pages and theirs is 13. I
yeah,
will say there's a lot of redundancy in ours, and I realized it was a professionally done document, and that it might have just been a template that they used. But may not require as many pages,
Yeah.
as much.
I think sometimes people feel redundancy is like to make sure that you thoroughly cover things or that, in all contexts, but it can be a burden too. Okay, so then where is ours?
I also think the strategic plan, the future oriented, should stand on its own. It shouldn't need all the other stuff around it, And that's what I felt like all the, plans had, background, demographics and stuff, and it was hard to get to the plan, without, so the clarity of that plan, I think is good.
Right.
I think you need some framing.
Some framing, but not pages and pages and pages. I mean, I also wonder, and both of the Hingham and Northborough have used the SWOT framework.
Yeah.
And I see that more and more organizations are using the SOAR.
All right, so you're gonna have to say what the SWATs and SOARs
That's
are.
what Hingham used, and I like it.
Yeah.
All right, so what is SWAT?
Strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. Okay. But SOAR is strengths, opportunities, aspirations, and results.
Well, that's more positive.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think it allows you to focus more on the future with a results approach, where, you can spend a lot of time looking at threats, but we've also just talked about the background and other
Yeah,
things.
I
So,
like
Yeah,
sort of
roughly, but
that.
and more progressive organizations do it.
Well, that's just to cover us while somebody's actually gonna watch this.
Okay.
I mean, so they don't have it, we all have it in
Right.
front of us, so now anybody that watches has it in front of them. So, should it, but see, I don't think that, all right, so it's the Hingham one's on the left.
The Hingham one's on the left and I
Okay, all right, so we do still wanna keep, all right, we still wanna keep a strategic, an executive summary.
Yes.
So then we both go to background and current situation, or Hingham has background, the center of active living and our aging population community needs assessment. They put an awful lot in that one introduction. I think, Linda, what I just heard consensus over there is we want a little bit less background.
Well, at least it's only a page and a half in Hingham, if I remember. Where ours just seemed to go on for several pages.
Yeah,
Maybe it's not the subject, but the content.
Right.
It's important to have background in current situation. You're setting, I teach this, where have you come from? Where are you now and where do you hope to go?
Okay.
Right, so if you don't say where you're coming from, where you are now, you're not setting the table for where you're going.
it's just a little less wordy.
Yeah,
Right.
All right.
go through AI and produce the content.
All right, so I do like, I don't know, if you want to jump to, on theirs where they have strategic planning process versus what we had, which is review. I mean, I like just that terminology better than review of strategic issues. And I don't think senior center history should go after our strategic planning process.
That could be in the appendix too for.
Yeah.
The history,
Yes.
that's a good idea.
All right, so we'll take that out of the table of contents. How do people feel about strategic planning process versus review of strategic issues?
I don't know where you are.
I like the strategic planning.
I mean, their strategic planning process was the discussion of their focus groups and, the focus groups. So my understanding was that we were, but are we planning on doing a whole focus group?
Well, I think we had, so I think we had some preliminary discussion about that there's only 6 of us and should
Right.
we be making any, all the decisions, ourselves. At this point, I don't know what our strategic planning process will be. I just like that that's the category that we're going to be figuring out what
Yep.
it includes
Got it.
versus reviewing strategic issues up to this point.
Yes.
So what that, what
We
process is,
don't know
we
what
don't know.
exactly the strategic planning process will be,
Right.
but we need to.
We have that, right, we need to have one, that's right.
Figure it out,
That's right.
we'll write about
That's
it.
right. Yeah.
I think that goes for everything.
It was, I thought it was great that they had this robust focus group process. I also felt like, well, they must have some resources to do that, because that's not a low level effort endeavor.
So-
Even collecting the data, getting people together, synthesizing the data, et cetera. I mean, it would be lovely if we could, but.
Right, well, and again, I don't want to get into the weeds of
Point
the
of
process.
order.
Sure.
I thought you told us that a lot of money was spent on this original, the one that we're trying
Right,
to amend.
right.
And that our process was to amend what is here to see what might be missing. And then we might go back to a process where we have to go through a process all over again. Is that correct?
I think we pretty much decided we were going to use the document that was in front of us, the 5-year one that we have, and follow it, pretty much, right? But Carol started looking at other ones and their formatting is different. I don't think whatever the consultant did for the one that we're working on, that research and focus groups are not going to pertain to what we're doing now. So we're gonna have to invest some time into that. But what that is gonna include, I mean, it might be something as simple as when the welcome letters go out, there are questions asked for people to respond back, to give us some feedback, do you want this, did you appreciate this welcome letter? Do you think you'll use the senior center? Why wouldn't you use the senior center? Things like that, right? To Vicky's point, where you want to try to do it with the least amount of effort, but with the most results.
You know, one of the things I liked, and I printed the one page from our report, was page 27. Reasons to do strategic planning and goals for strategic planning, which was generated by the strategic planning committee. And I thought, I'd rather read this than think through the whole process. And I don't care that a focus group was held this date and this time. I mean, we can say a series of focus groups. I mean, to get people to just read and get to the strategic. But I thought this was a shame it was on page 27.
Right.
So.
But all right, so the report doesn't have to focus on the focus groups, but you need to have some way of knowing what you're.
Right, but these
Right,
reasons
right.
and the goals
Right.
were a good way to introduce that.
Right.
But you didn't get to them until page 27.
Well, they just need to be pushed up in the document.
Right.
I mean, I think it's worth it for us to clarify those and see if they're helpful.
And Teresa, I'm just not exactly sure how to start this, right? I mean, so we're just trying to do like real baby steps, just to at least figure out if we're all on the same page. I think at some point, we may just have to pull up the current one and just start, actually, I think Vicky had a piece of paper in front of her. She had 2 different highlights on her piece of paper. So I know that some must be yes and no's, right?
Well, yeah.
But that's on the other item on our agenda.
Mission statement.
But if we could just, if nothing else, know that we have a process or a plan on what we're going to be doing, even if we don't know what we're going to be doing yet, if that makes sense.
And even if we might have to modify it down the road when we run into something. Right. Little more.
So who is the audience? Because we should think about the audience.
I think.
Carol is the
Well, yeah.
audience.
I mean, like
I
it
am one.
says, this is a tool for communicating with the administration and selectmen, so they know we have a plan.
Yeah, it is
So that's
definitely.
one plan.
And
It's also
getting
get support
funding
from the community. So I mean, because I think we should really think about the audience as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
True. And I
What are they
think
gonna get to, and what are they interested in?
especially the community aren't going to read a 27 or 30-page report.
Well, I don't think the
Right.
selectmen are either.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Part
so
of it.
most strategic plans have an executive summary that is 1 to max 4 pages.
Right.
That can be handed out in briefs, right? So that you aren't, the longer version is usually for the executive and the boards to follow, and then you condense it down to something digestible by the public.
And that's why any data off of focus groups doesn't have to be in the body, but it should be at the bottom.
But you have a separate document that summarizes everything so that if you're trying to explain it to people, it's easily digestible, it's even pretty looking. You have sort of pillars or whatever you want to call them of focal points where you're trying to get to, and then you give maybe a few bullet points on each and the timeline. All of that background information that is included in this is just that background so that it's written down, it's documented, but it is not literally the strategic plan.
Right.
They just put a bunch of content in there to prove they did work, but your strategic plan should be something forward-facing and digestible very easily by any audience.
Right. And that would then be the goals and the action plan.
Well, they could be two different documents,
Right, yeah.
one internal and one external.
Right, right. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, I know that I did for the Title III, the Area Agency on Aging, I had to do 4-year area plans. And most of it was just narrative that was required by Executive Office of Elder Affairs that had to be included in it. But what people were interested in was, well, what are you gonna do for me in the next 4 years?
I wanted to get back to the audience. I think there's different sectors that in general are part of our audience. I mean, there's the obvious elder adults, but there's their family looking for support for their parents, the people who are 50 and 60 and getting close and starting to think. So there's multiple segments.
I think more of the people who like might consider funding us. I mean, really,
Right,
they, you know,
right,
if you're
right.
applying for a grant of some sort, I mean, not the smaller grant for the vacuum cleaner, but
Yeah.
some other ones, you know.
Yeah,
They
they require a strategic plan.
Yeah,
Right, and
Yeah.
they would want the whole document, not just the executive summary.
Yeah.
Yes.
Possibly.
even if they might not read the whole, you know, who knows? But,
May or may not.
yeah, right, but they
So
definitely.
I'd say the shorter one, because the shorter one is not leaving anything out.
Okay.
It's sort of like a cover note to explain what the heck is in the rest of it. It's not expected that somebody just off the street would read 27 pages, but if you can boil that down to something where you can go, oh, I understand where they're headed, right, and how I fit into this.
Yeah.
But your process is in the deeper document so that you, the executive, if you were just arriving, which you have, understand the process they went through and all the details about it. The public needs to know, like, oh, here's my plan.
Yeah.
Not how I got to
Okay, fair enough.
And I think it's very important to have now with the town budget being so watched, you know, so, I mean, really just to justify what our department is doing and that we're really, you know, handling the resources well and all, I think that's super important right now.
And determine priorities.
Right,
Yeah, that's true.
right, right.
Make
We,
them
we
clear.
want to slope to the top of that priority pile.
Yeah.
Get our slice of the budget pie.
Yeah.
All right, thoughts on, all right, so in Hingham, they have strategic planning process and then strategic action plan. Would we say that, all right, so would we say we would want that in our, as part of our documents?
Yeah, you've gotta describe what we want to do.
Yeah, I mean, I like how they laid that out. There's a lot of valuable information in our report, but, the plan and the detail of the plan doesn't jump out at you. One of the things I like about the Hingham plan is they talk about the planning, you know, they get, the introduction covers sort of background in a succinct way, but then you've got a section on the planning process and then the action plan, and it really lays things out very clearly. It's a little bit harder to get at that in the way we have things laid out in ours. And I think it might be useful to have it a bit crisper and say, okay, well, once we've determined this is the action plan, here are the elements of it.
All right, so if we look at the Hingham one and we, instead of introduction, we have executive summary, right? We start with an executive summary, then you have some background. I don't know, to me, then you go right into strategic planning process and the action plan. Right, I mean.
Some of these, like senior center history, is that more of? I mean, do we need that, or is it more of an appendix? Does people want to have that information, to keep that in there, you know?
I don't think the mission, vision, and positioning statement is anything other than what's part of the executive summary. I mean, it's not by itself. It's all in the executive summary.
I might recommend that we actually review ours and then boil it down to, my guess is if we called Hingham, they'd say this is our public document. And we have an unwieldy 27-page document as well. That details everything that they did, but this is the one that they're, sending out, like sharing.
Oh, right, true enough, yeah. Right.
That seems to be the major difference, right? We went into excruciating detail and they kind of summarized it.
Mhm. Oh,
And they
so
included
might
pretty
have
boxes too, so you could read it.
Right.
So I think what we're talking about is we like their formatting.
Right,
Right?
yeah, right,
Yeah,
right.
So that as we present it to people, they're like, oh, I get
Right.
this.
So we would add executive summary to their format.
Essentially,
All right.
adopt this format.
They
and
didn't even have an executive summary when you get into.
But they didn't put it on their table of contents. It's strange.
No,
Yeah. But
no, I guess not.
and what is the year of theirs? I mean, is it still current?
It is, it was very recently done.
Yeah, it was like
24 years.
Oh, September 2020.
All right, so we talked about the appendix. We have like demographics would go down into our appendix. There's something else. The background would go
History of the seniors.
and the history of the senior center. It's going to all go into our appendix. It's not going to be part of the main document. That sound accurate? No, I feel like that's enough for me to think about it.
I mean, I would be interested if if you look at it, I think we want to keep that history. Here's 2010, here's 2011, here's 2012. We obviously have updated for all the subsequent years, but is that something we need to have in our strategic plan? You know,
In the background, but not in the
but
foreground.
okay, but you would keep it in as an appendix.
Sure, it can hurt to have the history.
I think it's good to have it somewhere.
Okay,
Right.
I literally,
Great
if you
place to
think,
have it.
just think about this, literally, it's two different documents. Like,
I understand that. It's
Yeah.
a simple question.
Yeah,
But then
Right.
somebody has to go and say, this is.
Right,
this goes here, this goes here.
Right.
And I'm just missing everything.
Some of the things we might have to decide as we go along, because I remember reading about the
Anyway, yes, we really should start from the scratch.
the budget, staff and participation changes, like, some of it, I think we have to wait till we get to that part of the document, and then we might decide, hey, you know what, that would be better, and that, because I think it's hard at this point to kind of decide where something belongs.
Right, and I do, I mean, it does make a lot of sense that the document itself is going to be used or read in a way to let people know where we want to see ourselves moving forward. If they're interested in knowing how we got here, then they go into the subsequent information or in the, it's like Cliff Notes versus the book. You get the gist of it. All right. Okay. All right, so I will, with Carol's help, figure out what we just said and send out like a mock-up of what we just talked about to make sure that everybody makes sense to everyone. So. You will review the, I went A then C. I forgot the mission statement. So we went to review the examples, which was the Hingham and the Hanover. And then I jumped right to discuss table of contents through the executive summary, which is kind of interesting. Executive table of contents through the executive summary versus executive summary being right there at the top. All right. So the other thing on the strategic plan is that we do have a current mission statement of as the hub for all aspects of healthy aging. The mission of the Northborough Council on Aging Senior Center is to enrich and enhance the lives of older adults in our community. And so again, Carol went through the effort of getting several different versions from both small, medium, and large communities. I do think it's interesting. I volunteer at the Holliston Senior Center, and their Council on Aging decided to drop the term senior, and now they refer themselves just as the center, which I understand their intent, but I think they're missing.
You've got to identify who you are.
Right,
It's
that's
like
right.
Dunkin' Donuts.
I know.
Yeah. Well, I still know what Dunkin' is. So, I mean, so I do think,
I know.
I do think that we need to present ourselves as primarily for the older adult, but we are open to the community for different types of supports and services.
And the problem we found with targeting older people, everybody says I'm not old.
Yeah.
And that's been a problem all these years. You talk to people our age and my age, and they say, I'm not old enough to go to senior center. I mean, they think it's a nursing home.
Right.
We've
Right.
had, as the story goes, we've had Algonquin students come up here looking for the beds when they volunteer. So it's.
Yeah.
I mean, some towns are calling it a community adult center or adult community center, things like that. They took the word senior out of it.
What happened and have they noticed?
I don't know. I don't know. I just noticed that my wife has pointed a few out to me that they no longer say senior.
I'd be curious on the data.
Yeah.
Sometimes they also choose the name of somebody who, I don't know, somebody from the town, like I know
The
in Westford,
Callahan.
it's the Cameron Center,
Yeah,
you know?
yes, right.
And it's, so it's just, and everyone knows the Cameron Center, the senior center.
Oh, Framingham,
Brandon,
Callahan.
Yeah, Callahan.
Oh, it is,
Callahan,
okay,
yeah.
oh, I didn't know that,
Yeah.
yeah.
But they, you end up saying Callahan Senior Center, even though.
Exactly, wait till they die to name it.
Right?
Galante Center.
Well, senior center has such a clear meaning, I mean, you know it's
It
for
does,
older
but
adults.
it does turn some people off,
It does,
you know.
it does.
Right, but I think for those people, they just have to like come once.
I understand that.
Yeah,
So,
I understand that.
which is why
Yeah.
you want the mission statement to say that you're welcome, even if you're not what you perceive as a senior, right? Because senior in AARP starts sending things out at 55. The Fed says 60, the state, Medicare says 65, Social Security now has 70. I mean, what constitutes a senior? So-
High school graduates are seniors too.
That's
I-
true. Yeah.
Actually, you can belong to AARP at age 18.
I joined when I was 13.
There you go. There you go.
I did.
All right, so,
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think in our strategic plan, we will also, address how do we, make sure that people think about our image as being a little bit younger and hipper than.
that's right, that's right.
The fact that I like having the senior or something elder in the title. The mission statements that said the age, age 60 and that put me off.
Right, yeah.
I don't think that you want to put an age in there.
So, I mean, there were too many, I was gonna have people rank them, but I felt like there was too many of them to
Yeah.
do that.
The way I sort of tackled it, and I wasn't sure how this would work, so I didn't write this up in a way to share, but I went through you've noticed my color scheme.
Yes.
My color scheme was first focusing on what they were saying they were gonna focus on, and then how they were going to do it. So, for example, the whats were, they were focusing on, if for the senior community, health, well-being, independence, lives or quality of life, personal development, services and programs, preparing for life change, their environment, support systems. They used words like foster, enrich, enhance, support, advocate for, empower. And so, part of my thought was if we had these phrases, and I also want to just read quickly my how list, but what are there parts of those that we want, you have to sort of pick and choose, you can't put them all in.
Pick the
You know,
components
which do you
you like.
like the best? We
Yeah.
write them down, like, oh,
Yeah.
I think we want to focus on independence and personal development was blah, you know, which was, and then the other thing was sort of the how. So some of them, similar to ours, kind of sounded on the how in the mission statement, but some of them had details like create an inclusive and welcoming environment, provide education, physical activity, cultural offerings, volunteer opportunities. Focus on learning, leisure, health and fitness, info and information and referrals, social service, provide comprehensive services and programs, and enable meaningful connections. So those are some of the, when they said, they might have said, we want to focus on well-being and independence by providing education, physical activity.
Right.
So it's just one way of taking these and picking and choosing the things that we think belong in our statement.
Right, so that would be, so starting with the, what is your first thought when you think of the senior center?
Seniors, developing and enjoying themselves.
Okay, so we want to include the, see, what's it?
I mean, I
Leisure.
was thinking we could circle the words we particularly like, you know? I mean, that's the way, you know.
Yeah, and make a bubble
Oh,
like
yeah.
you did.
I mean, I can,
Yeah.
write them on the boards, I mean, as I said,
Yeah.
I wasn't sure how we project this in.
Like-
Well, I
Like
do know that in
everyone will
the
be-
master plan steering committee, that's how we ended with downtown, right? Because in every conversation, that ended up being the biggest word in those word bubbles.
Yeah,
Right?
yes, yes.
Right, so, word cloud?
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
It's the most frequently.
And-
spoken.
and we can also,
Right. Well, why don't we do this? You take those down and, right, so that is,
we have a whiteboard.
I was gonna say, but just do the one, minimize the screen behind so that the actual mission statements can be bigger. If it's possible. Make that big.
Yeah, I can.
He has to show it, yeah.
One thing I will say, I think we should endeavor to keep this as brief as possible too.
The mission statement,
Yeah.
absolutely, it's not an
Yeah.
executive summary, yeah.
One thing I did was I found out the mission statement for the National Council on Aging.
Yeah.
And it says NCOA delivers the resources, tools, best practices, and advocacy our nation needs to ensure that every person can age with health and financial security. And actually, they started that by saying aging well is everyone's right. So theirs is very brief,
Right.
and
It should be one sentence.
I think you have to.
One,
Yeah.
one, okay.
And,
Yeah.
I think it should be one,
Statements
yeah.
go
It might be a little bit
usually-
longer,
yeah,
but.
and we may want to be brief, so the ones that, there, more of them had the kind of brevity that ours had, as opposed to those who had the phrase about, by providing education, physical activity, cultural offerings, volunteer opportunities.
That's not a mission,
You know,
actually. That's a
yeah.
how. So
Yeah.
you correctly
Exactly.
broke them down.
So, we may not, I wanted to highlight the things that were in them. That's not to say that I necessarily think we should itemize all the things,
Mhm.
you know.
I
Because
kind of
it's
like the one
limiting.
for,
If you want to do something outside the scope of that.
Yes,
we could also get one like Bedford is fairly, brief, and I think it hits on a couple things, and you could kind of take something like that and then go through other words and you could replace some of the words, but sort of stick with the format.
All right, and so Bedford says to advocate for and support the well-being of people over 60, ensuring Bedford remains a vibrant and inclusive place to age with dignity, independence, and purpose. Now, I like the end of that.
Good. You know, like the first part.
I guess I would, to advocate and support the well-being. I don't like the people over 60 ensuring.
Yeah.
Older adults, you could just put it instead of people over 60. I mean, the one thing about putting people over 60, why it's often, I don't know if it is often, but why it is sometimes put in, because it makes it very clear this is who we're serving, that this is our community, people over 60. But you don't have to.
Right, but
Whereas older adults is a bit more vague.
if you jump down to Marlboro, we strive to provide comprehensive services and programs for older adults and their families.
Yes,
We do-
I think it's that I read a phrase that said the people who support them, who support the seniors.
Right?
And that includes family and everybody else. So I think something like that should be
Older
included.
adults and their families.
I
Yeah,
do like that, because we certainly do provide support to
Yes.
families when an elder person is in distress, and the families can come here
Yeah.
to try to get assistance.
Yeah.
So it's not out of line to say that.
Yeah,
Some
no, I
people
think
don't
that
have
would fit a
families.
nicely.
I mean, I think the scenario tonight on Jocelyn
Right.
didn't have a family.
No, but
right?
it's true. So not everybody has families, but those who do, the families can look to the senior center.
So we strive to provide comprehensive services and programs for older adults and their families. And, right, I mean,
I
that's,
don't like the strive to provide, it's like, we're really trying, I mean, I get that they are, but I think,
You wanna
I don't
just say-
think you need to say it that way.
right. Provide comprehensive services and programs to older adults and their families, at least that's inclusive.
Read Shrewsbury's.
Or actually, I
Shrewsbury, okay.
I tried writing one, which one to hear.
Yes, of course. Yes, an original, yeah.
the Northborough Council on Aging's mission is to advocate for and help enhance the quality of life of our seniors and those who support them in an inclusive, compassionate, and respectful environment.
All right, I
I
think
was
we
with you
all,
until the end, because can you, the modifiers at the end?
Oh, the inclusive, compassionate, and respectful.
Right, because
Yeah, I listed a lot of this from other people's,
Yeah.
so,
that's where you lost me, but the literal stuff is great, but then you got into figurative, 'cause
Yeah.
you guarantee each time that it's.
what would you suggest for?
I don't know, but that's just where my ear dropped off.
That's
Yeah.
fine,
so
that's
read
fine.
up, read up to that point again.
Oh, reread it?
Up to them.
The Northborough Council on Aging's mission is to advocate for and help enhance the quality of life of our seniors and those who support them in A.
So,
I would say
one,
Just that,
yeah.
yeah.
one thing that I don't love about that is it's sort of like supporting, it doesn't say that, but our poor seniors. There's just an implied thing that these are people who need our support. And I think you need to get some level of like supporting families and older adults. But I think the one thing I like about Bedford is it remains a vibrant and inclusive place to age with dignity. So it's not so much that, because not everybody needs support. And actually, most people who come here don't need support. But what they do need is a place where there's things going on for older people and with that it is vibrant and it isn't somewhere where you come and there's a couple people sitting there or something. So
All right, so then
I really
the
like what
Northborough Council on Aging, the mission of the Northborough Council on Aging is to provide a vibrant and inclusive place to age with dignity, independence, and purpose while providing comprehensive services and programs to the older adults and their families.
Way too long.
I mean, but those are the two pieces. I mean, I think that's what we're trying.
What if
Unless you're
we
stuck
just
in an
combine-
elevator.
What if
You're in
we
a-
just combine,
Okay,
so what we have is to enrich and enhance the lives of older adults and their families in our community. So that Northborough remains a vibrant, inclusive place to age with dignity and purpose.
okay, so
So,
the
Just
last part of
add-
ours, start with that.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think what we have is fine, and then just add the last line of Bedford.
We didn't like the hub,
I hate
so.
the hub.
Yeah, I don't like that.
either.
I
Okay.
can get rid of that first
What-
phrase, just start with the mission of.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Okay, so the mission of the Northborough Council on Aging
Yeah.
Senior Center is to enrich and enhance the lives of older adults in our community.
Older adults
Just
in
like in our community.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
older
older
adults
adults
and
and
their
their
families, and their families.
So then Northborough remains a vibrant, inclusive place to age with dignity, independence, and purpose.
All right, so,
Are we trying
yeah.
to enrich and enhance the lives of the families of older
Yeah.
adults? I don't think so. I mean, I
No,
think,
supporting the family.
yeah, so.
Yeah.
all right,
And
You
get
know-
rid of the family.
okay,
I don't care about
all
that.
right,
But I like that, and those who.
yeah.
Well,
I like
and,
that.
Advocate and support for the well-being of people over 60. So you can get something, advocate and support older adults and their families, if we can get that in there.
Is that really who you're serving for the most part?
That's who Jocelyn is serving. She does do a lot of like helping families and helping people. Yeah, absolutely.
People are told regardless of, even if,
Yeah, and shine.
like, I could go to Jocelyn and say to her, my mom lives in South Carolina, can you help me figure out how to help her? And she would help me do that.
She's
I
got
think
that
another
from me
point-
too.
Yeah,
She's,
right.
out of
Yeah.
town.
Another
Yeah.
point of order, these all say the Council on Aging. Are we creating a mission statement for the Council on Aging or for the seniors?
/seniors.
See, the Council on Aging, every town has to have a Council on Aging, so, but not every town has a senior center.
Carol is the director of the Council of Aging.
Yeah.
She's that.
Yeah,
No,
yeah, because we're advisory.
Kelly corrected me on
both.
that one time when they made her a name tag. She was the director, oh yeah, but,
Director of the Council of Aging, on Aging,
and this
because,
is a
Oh, I
board that
think that
advises her.
Job statement.
Oh, that-
Director of Senior Center.
that's because the town doesn't
Okay.
understand the difference.
Yeah.
That's true.
Sorry.
I go back to what are we creating a mission statement?
Well, let's,
Yeah,
does
most
it
are
matter?
mentioned, both of them.
Does it matter?
Kind of. I think.
Well,
Well,
they're pretty interrelated.
Newton has.
But one is a council, right? That's our,
Council on Aging.
that's where,
Council on Aging,
that's
Council on
us,
Aging,
that's just us, right?
Yeah.
Council on
And the
Aging.
other is physical, like it's programmatic space, right?
None of them except for Marlboro include senior center. Every other one is just Council on Aging.
Right.
Well, the Hingham Center for Active Living is sort of the senior center.
Yeah, well,
So they choose to
Skip
do the
those
senior
out.
center.
right, but the others say Council on Aging because
Right, they all,
it is the mission of the Council on Aging to provide a senior center that does these things. Or to, actually,
Native kind of just doesn't mention it.
right, but it's the Council on Aging that's required, it's the mission of the Council on Aging, because I use,
Well, then why don't we say
Sherburne,
that?
right, Sherburne does not have a senior center, so their mission statement is just from the Council on
So
Aging.
why don't we say that? The mission of the Northborough Council on Aging is to provide a senior center to enrich and enhance the lives of older adults in the community.
Oh, currently we have slash, okay.
Right,
And then, so that Northborough remains a vibrant place to age and serve.
all right, so what I guess we should
I
do
mean, we're not putting this on t-shirts, so I
Right.
can like a little bit.
Right.
more,
all right, so let's just cross out the ones that we don't like completely,
That's a good idea. That's a
Okay.
great way to
all
start.
right? Because I think that we're throwing out a lot of good ideas, but nobody's really typing, so I don't want to have to watch.
I just trying to write something. I give one more shot.
yeah.
Okay, good.
It's a little long. It's a combination. The Council on Aging's mission is to advocate for and support our seniors and those who support them.
Like, I'm gonna change
support.
out support.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's another
Oh, okay,
word.
so,
And their
and,
families.
and their families, and okay, so let's go, and their families. Council on Aging's mission is to advocate for and support our seniors and their families. To foster or to provide a vibrant and inclusive community in which to age with dignity, dignity, independence, and purpose.
Something like that, yeah.
I think Shrewsbury's, you're very close to there.
Actually, it was close to Bedford too, it's probably right.
I pulled some from Bedford, I pulled some from Sioux, I pulled some from what people are saying.
Actually, let me know.
I like it, the one thing I would say is
All right,
that,
friends of the Northborough Senior Center will be departing at this time.
you can't blame them.
Thank you very much for
You do
your,
a good job though.
right, thank you for your ongoing support of the seniors and their families in the community of Northborough.
That's being a raise your hands.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Well, you are mutually.
Yes, definitely.
I just want to run over you.
Not either in here or out.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you guys very much.
One little thing I just want to mention is that the current term that's used is older adults and not seniors. And like the senior center, you're talking about older adults.
All right, well, since we're not going to say the seniors, well.
I mean,
But that's easy, you can just.
I do
switch
like
one to the
Shrewsbury,
other.
you know, that's succinct.
All right.
That's one that Teresa's been calling our attention to.
The mission of the Council on Aging is to advocate for and to develop programs and services that enhance the well-being and quality of life and to create a welcoming, secure, and inclusive community for seniors. All right, so.
We're gonna get in trouble with plagiarism.
I think.
Oh,
we'll
yeah,
copy it
it's gotta be
exactly.
rewritten a little bit. I think that also, instead of saying develop, we want to say offer or something like that.
All right.
Because,
Okay, and
All right,
then,
so let's use Shrewsbury as our template for the moment.
And which is
Mission of
the
the Council on
Northborough
Aging.
mission, the Northborough Council on Aging's mission.
There we go.
There it is, okay.
Yeah, right?
Little modification.
Okay, the mission of the Northborough Council on Aging is to advocate for and to,
Enhance the quality of life.
And develop.
instead of develop, offer, okay?
Or and
Do we
offer.
develop the programs and services? Does the senior center?
We advocate for
Well,
and offer programs. The Council on Aging offers programs and services through our senior
Yeah,
center.
I think something like
Yeah.
offer, do we? Yeah.
Well, we are, I mean, the senior center is just the brick and mortar that provides the supports and services of the Council on Aging. Again, if I use,
But it's not all done here, correct? There's other, like, there's things, we go out in the community and represent ourselves.
As part of the senior center.
as part of the Council on Aging.
No, it's part of the council on aging.
Right, right. Well, that's, again, when, in Sherborne, they don't have a senior center. They have a Council on Aging, they have a Council on Aging director. She's a town employee, and she does all of her programming and outreach and everything at one of the community churches or the library. She doesn't have a brick and mortar building. She doesn't have a senior center. But the mission would, I mean, I feel like that's partially making it too specific. I don't know that it matters, right, that
I take it
we,
back.
But especially since everybody uses.
Living it
it.
there.
right, I
You
mean,
know.
yeah, because, I mean, I'm sure Shrewsbury, they don't actually.
I just
develop-
learned that one is one and the same.
Oh, right,
I
okay.
did not know.
That's all right. So the mission of the Council on Aging is to advocate for and offer programs and services that enhance the well-being and quality of life.
You know, it actually.
Just enhance the
it
quality
has
of life.
thoughts in here, but you know,
Yeah.
it does need wordsmithing because it says to advocate for, well, advocate for what?
Yeah.
Well, you have to keep going, and I guess it means for the well-being and quality of life, but well-being and quality of life of who? You know, so it's
Yeah, it's
actually,
awkward.
it's actually not well written, but I understand what they're trying to say. It just-
Actually, I think you could say something about,
How about promote?
advocate for, older adults and those who
By.
support them by or via, you know, offering the programs and
All
stuff.
right, so what I think I want to do, because I mean, there are 351 councils on aging in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I think we are all looking at it the same way, coming up with different ideas. But we know it's a two-parter. One, this is, you know, I think I remember you said the two-part. This is what we believe, and this is how we're going to,
So it's who we serve
Who
and
we
what we do.
right, who we serve and what we do. Everybody, for our next meeting, comes up with 3 examples. And then we'll, you know, throw them in a hat. I mean, 3 examples, and and if you can't find the who we are and what we,
Or.
You mean come up with, like,
From all-
3.1?
right, from
Yeah,
all of
excellent.
what we're seeing, right? Again, I'm totally blank again, who we are and what
Oh,
are the 2 parts?
well, I was trying
Sorry.
to, I was, it was, well, what I was highlighting is what it is we're trying to do,
And who would,
like focus on health, the well-being,
right,
whatever.
right,
And the second was how we're going to do
okay,
that. You know,
what
I
the
think- I
priority
will
is,
say that when we were talking about it, I think we all agreed that we didn't need to give a lot of details on how we were going to do it.
Yeah,
You know,
I think it's the mission that is the core of this statement.
that,
You know, so
Yeah.
how you're going to accomplish it, I
Yeah.
don't think
I
is
think
not
we- I think
relevant.
we-
Yeah.
ultimately what we were going to actually not go into detail on.
Right.
So it really is more focused on what are we
Right.
trying to do?
Right.
That's, you know, that's really the crux of
Right.
it. And so that's what we've been trying to wordsmith.
right, well,
Yeah.
I do think,
Whatnot.
so it's still, in my brain, it's a 2-parter. Now, I could come up with like 6 halves and not necessarily have 3 complete thoughts, right, because they might not match up perfectly, but at least then we would, you know, I mean, they all seem to start the same
I mean,
as, you know, the Council on Aging, you know, either to advocate or I mean, Greenfield with, but I guess I just don't want, like, I truly don't want to keep people here just to keep.
But my suggestion, I mean, my preference, if we all bring in 3 examples, we're gonna repeat the same thing we're doing right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So my
but we're only
inclination
gonna do, okay,
is to try to do what you think
Yeah.
is
Okay.
a statement that might work.
okay.
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
Here's
So
my,
then 1,
example.
2, 3,
here's my
4.
thought of a mission statement. Then we
Okay.
share our mission statements. Maybe we'll come up with one that everybody says, yeah, I think we like that one best. If we don't, well, okay, well, we can push
still
it a
edit
little
it.
bit further.
Yeah,
out there.
yeah,
all right,
But-
change
right,
these
but
words.
If we
Yeah.
have,
All
3
right.
times how many,
Right,
we're
oh,
gonna
true
right
enough.
back where we
Yeah,
are.
okay,
Right.
so that's, so we'll have
Just
7
take
of
a
them.
stab at writing your
Okay.
mission statement,
Okay.
and then we'll share them.
Okay, all
You
right,
know,
and maybe, and if we
Right.
could share them, you could do a blank Word document, put them all up there, and then we can move words around if we want. That sounds like a plan, Stan. All right, I love it.
So are we done?
But tonight, yes. This is-
Okay.
this is great. Okay, any old or new business?
No.
Okay, all right, if there is no old or new business, I would like, well, yeah, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
In a second, okay, a motion in a second, all those in favor? Aye, all right, motion has been made and accepted. The meeting is now adjourned, you can end.